Well, good morning and welcome to another week. I know you guys are excited that Thanksgiving break is coming up and it starts on Wednesday. So officially we only have 2 days of school this week. So this video that we're going to complete today is actually going to be covered for the next 2 weeks. So you will not be getting a new video the Monday that we come back from Thanksgiving break, which I know some of you are probably very excited and some of you are probably but that's the way it's going to be. And we're just going to kind of roll with it and give those that have been working or maybe just struggling to finish the first unit time to complete that and work on the second and maybe get caught up over this next week. So when we come back, we're kind of all around, maybe not on the same pace, but we're all in the general area that we should be in. So this week's lesson is going to be a little different than most, is that it's just going to be what I call a reteach. So I'm going to go back and teach a section I feel like some of you are struggling in and kind of reteach it in a way that's maybe more foundational and a little bit more basic to get you the understanding that you need. So hopefully that this video will help you better understand the checkpoints that go along with it. Again, this is for those that have been struggling and I've noticed. So I'm just going to kind of reteach this to you. So the learning target really doesn't change. I'm just going to, how I approach it's going to change. So I can create an equation from a table of information, understanding direct and inverse proportional relationships and constant of proportionality. Now there's a lot of terminology in there, but most of you, if not all, have understood the fact of what a constant of proportionality is. It's that constant number of how do I get from the left of the table to the right of the table. And usually it involves the operation of multiplication. Unless you're going, right to left, the opposite direction, use division, but it's the same number throughout. If it is not the same number, then we say it's not a proportional relationship. So we're not even dealing with that. But what we want to look at in this is I can create an equation from that table of information that will actually help me find that constant, maybe a little faster, or actually maybe just make it a little bit more basic on what I need to do. It's around the same idea, but sometimes having an equation can help us find maybe information on the table that's not present on the table. Maybe your table on the left side of the X value only goes up to 5. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm looking for 20, right? Instead of making the table that much longer, we can use an equation to kind of give us what Y would be based off what we're given of that constant. So again, the learning target stays the same. We're just going to kind of look at it a little bit more basic. And again, just like the last one was set up, I have, every section, we don't change the sections: engage, explore, explain. The engage is a little bit different. I kind of see what you're thinking with these equations, because the two that we're going to talk about are direct and inverse, okay? And the difference between those and how I can use those to solve information from the table. So give me some ideas there in the engage section. The explore section, I give you a whole new realm of resources, right? So it's not the same ones as the last lesson above. It's going to be a whole new list of resources, and we're going to look at the read section together and kind of break it down a little bit and help you understand better how to write these equations. Everything else in the lesson will stay the same. Actually, the elaborate, I think I used the same elaborate as the previous lesson, because I think it's good. I think it's a way for you to apply what you're learning, but hopefully you can do that based on the, the understanding that we have through the rest of this lesson. You can be able to complete that. So I kept the elaborate the same. The evaluate, I changed a little bit with a different checkpoint for you to complete, and everything else is a little bit different, but the elaborate will be the same from the last lesson, because again, the learning target's the same. I want to keep your, the application the same as well, and give you a chance to do that after you understand a little bit more, have a better understanding of these equations. So I'm going to kind of go to this reading section, okay? So what is the difference between a direct and an inverse proportional relationship? Because you will use both of these in these checkpoints that you're doing. The big difference between a direct and an inverse is this. A direct is one amount increases, the other amount needs to increase at the same rate. So a direct needs to go in the same direction, okay? An example that we always give is, we could say money with hours. The more hours you work, the more money you make. That's a direct proportion, all right? So as the money increases, as your hours increase, your money increases. So when both things are increasing, or decreasing at the same rate, the same direction, we call that a direct. There's a direct relationship between both of those. An example of an inverse is the complete opposite. As one increases, the other value can decrease. And then we can kind of flip the same thing. As one decreases, the other can increase. So an example of this would be the faster we go, the quicker we get to a destination. So as the speed increases, our travel time decreases. And the other way, as our speed decreases, maybe due to roadblocks and construction and all these things, our travel time goes up. So if they're going in the opposite direction, we say that's an inverse proportion. So there is, key word here, two ways, I'm gonna say it again, because you might see this in your checkpoints. There's two ways to write these equations, as a direct relationship and as an inverse relationship with proportions. So how we come up with this is we use this constant of proportionality, because here's your equation, y equals kx, as you can see here. But also with an inverse, it's y over equals k over x. So what is k? Well, k is your constant. It's that constant proportionality. What's the number that I'm getting that's constant throughout all of my table? And again, usually it's multiplying. It could be division on the opposite way, but what is that constant? All right, how I can find that constant is I can use values from the table. So look at this example here. Here is my equation, and here we're trying to find out what the constant is. If I can find out what the constant is, then if we go to the end result down here, I can use this equation to find other values in the table that aren't on the table. So to find the k, I can use what's given in the table, an x value here and a y value here, all right, and just solve like I normally do for equations. So if I have 15 equals 3k, or k times 3, just like equations, we do the opposite of what's given to both sides. So I'm going to divide by 3 here, divide by 3 here, what they show you right here, and I'm going to get k equals 5. And that 5 becomes my constant throughout the entire problem or whatever I'm working on with that table. That becomes your equation, okay? And again, what we can do then is, what is the value of y when x equals 9? Well, I can use my constant equation up here to say that I'm going to plug 9 in for x and get y equals 45. Or I can do what the complete opposite does and say, if I give you a y of 2, what would x be? Well, x would equal, if we divide by 5 to both sides, we get 2/5 or 0.4. So once we have that constant, that's going to help us solve numbers for other things. Same thing with an inverse, all right? We have the same thing for an inverse. If we need to find k, it's a little bit opposite process. What we have is here, if I'm given y equals 3 and x equals 4, all right, k, we need to find k. So just like with a direct, we were multiplying k and x. Here we're dividing k and x. So the opposite of division would be multiplication. So if I multiply 4 to both sides, which is a rule to an equation, right? What we do to one side, we do to the other, and it's the opposite operation. So I'm going to multiply by 4 here and multiply it to the other side and get 12. So k equals 12. Then again, I can use that to solve problems when I'm given maybe an x and need to find a y value, or given a y when I need to find an x value. So the reason I'm showing you guys this is, again, these basic equations, and use this resource to kind of see what they're doing, is that there's different ways to write equations, which you might see in your checkpoints, but the equation helps you be able to solve that. The equation needs to have variables. Y equals kx is the equation for a direct, and y equals k over x for an inverse. Use those models to help find different numbers in the table. Or if the question asks you to write an equation, use those models to help you be able to answer that, okay? And what most of the time they're looking for is, they want you, when they say write an equation from this table, is what they're asking is, they want you to find k, the constant, right? And then your end result could be y equals, and I'll go back up here, y equals 5x. This is what an equation would look like for an answer to a problem that asks you that. If they ask you what the equation for that table is, they're looking for something like this, where you give them the constant, but y and x stay y and x, because you can use that for anything. Hopefully this has helped you understand better this idea of equations, and you can use this understanding to help you through the rest of these checkpoints. And I advise you to watch this, use this lesson as an enhancement of your learning, and hopefully this reteach lesson will help you continue to work from the unit and finish it. If you have any questions, please let me know. And again, at the end of this lesson, my goal for you is to confidently say, I can create an equation from a table of information by understanding direct and inverse proportional relationships and the constant of proportionality. Have a good day.